Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, shockingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, April 25th, 2024. This is live stream 1048. If you're not really familiar with this show, it's super casual, just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And I will normally pontificate on a topic related to our hobby. Oh, and tonight I certainly will. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, as I mentioned, super casual around here, just hanging out, having some fun. We are certainly not engaged in any sort of mental heavy lifting by any stretch of the imagination. Now, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel in order to take part in chat. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. Let's see. First out the gate tonight is the Motor City Madman. Yes, good friend of the show and chat moderator. The Madman is with us. I would also guess that the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is probably lurking in the shadows. Deja Vu, W. Forge, Semper Buffo, Roger Perdome, Lord Cost 2000, Chris Lundgren, Roger Perdome, and Ziggy 7800 Pro are hanging with chat. And Hector Stafford just popped on in. So, Chris Lundgren says, oh, interesting topic. Seemed to be the top of the day. 2 other channels talking about it as well. No, W. Forge is like, wait a second. I thought we were talking science fiction role-playing games or Game Master shortage. That's what the topic was when we were talking about various different things last night. That's what popped up in chat, the GM's shortage. And I said, oh, yeah, we should talk about that. And I was like, what were we talking about? Mike Dymart is also joining us tonight. Looks like we got a nice rockin' and rollin' chat already. So earlier today, I posted a zeet about the RPG consent form. And all these people are putting words into my mouth about the RPG consent form, which the reality is I don't give a shit about one way or the other about a GM consent form if people use it at their tables or not. But I tweeted something, and for some ungodly reason, a bunch of people think I meant something completely different. So that is what we're talking about tonight. After the news, we're going to discuss the RPG consent form, and we're also going to discuss, have adults all become fucking 10-year-olds now? Is that how we work? Is that how we operate now? Because I'm curious. Please let me know if that's the case, because I need to know this going forward. I am spicy tonight, ladies and gents, boys and girls. In fact, if there are boys and girls out there tonight. Cover those ears. Kabuki Kid is with us in chat. Good to see you, Double K. And Game Cat is joining us as well. All right, so let's jump on into the news because Ace Gamebooks has launched a Kickstarter to fund Shakespeare versus Cthulhu, What Dreams May Come. Here's the skinny from author Jonathan Green. The year is 1613, and England's foremost playwright is committed to finishing his latest magnum opus, Love's Labour's Won, for his new patron, the Earl of Gloucester. However, he falls asleep while working late at the Globe one night, and when he wakes again, he finds himself in a subtly altered world that is both familiar and yet unfamiliar. What follows is an epic quest through Shakespeare's own plays, in which he finds himself confronted by sinister eldritch forces before he ultimately has to face down the most terrible of the great old ones, the cosmic entity known as Cthulhu. Shakespeare versus Cthulhu, What Dreams May Come is a brand new interactive fantasy novel inspired by the bard's greatest plays and the eldritch creations of the American pulp horror writer H.P. Lovecraft. In this adventure game book, a multi-path book very much in the style of Choose Your Own Adventure or Fighting Fantasy game books, you choose the course of the story, deciding which route to take, which perils to risk, and which of the monstrous creatures you will meet along the way to fight. Shakespeare versus Cthulhu, What Dreams May Come will be the 8th title in the popular Ace Gamebooks series. So right now, Shakespeare versus Cthulhu is about $1,000 short of its goal. You can reserve a copy of the paperback and PDF for a pledge of approximately $25, or you can grab just the PDF for a pledge of approximately $13 through May 16th. Expected delivery is next April. And yes, Jonathan Green is a pretty well-known RPG author, and he has a lot of game books that are kind of choose your own adventure in kind of theme. It's kind of cool, I gotta say, pretty unusual premise, that is for sure. And even if you're picking it up just in PDF, not too bad a price. Veil of Darkness 000 is popping on in. Sounds like a fun book. Kabuki Kid asks, what is the consent form? We're going to talk about that. We will talk about that in just a bit once we wrap up with the news. Daniel Boggs is joining us. I believe this might be a first-time visit live for Daniel. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us tonight. And Typical DM is also hanging with the gang. Very nice, very nice. Anyway, I want to point out, I do have a video for Shakespeare versus Cthulhu. It's relatively short. Let's give it a watch.
It has been put about that in 1613, the Globe Theatre was destroyed by fire during a performance of All Is True, when a cannon set light to the thatch. However, the truth is far stranger and more terrifying, and lies within the pages of Shakespeare versus Cthulhu, What Dreams May Come. In this brand new Ace Gamebook, inspired by the Bard's greatest plays and given a Lovecraftian twist, you are England's foremost playwright, William Shakespeare, battling the creatures and cultists of the great old one, Cthulhu. Shakespeare versus Cthulhu, what dreams may come. Back now and claim your rewards. Dare you dream?
Yes, I like that artwork. I think the artwork's pretty cool. The line art, very nicely done. Very nicely done. Eric R. is popping on into chat. Asks, HPL was considered pulp? I always think of Indiana Jones when I think pulp, not Color Out of Space. I think what they mean there is pulp magazines, because the magazines that Lovecraft stories were printed in are considered the pulps. And it's just because of the material the pages were made from. It was paper pulp. So it was really, really cheap. Really, really cheap. So Chris, hold off on talking about X-Card and things like that. This is the topic for after the news. So if people are kind of curious about X-Cards and consent forms and things like that, we will talk about that after the news. Chris is always trying to jump the gun. Eric R. says, oh, gotcha. Print on cheap paper. Yes, that's exactly it. All right, moving right along. Raging Swan Press has released Monstrous Delves, Hobgoblins of the Mailed Fist. I almost forgot the. Here's the latest. The crumbling ruin of the watchtower of Acuveno has long kept a lonely watch over the wild borderland. Now reports of heavily armed warriors camped at the site and sightings of something huge flying across the night sky have terrified the local peasants. Has bloody war come to the borderlands? Will all soon be in ruin? Who will shield the borderland folk? Easily adapted for virtually any other setting. This system-neutral Monstrous Delve presents the atavistic knolls of the Bleached Skull tribe, along with a detailed overview of the dungeon below the Hill of the Sunken Skull. A Monstrous Delve is not a proper adventure. Rather, it's a starting point for your creativity. We provide a flavorsome overview of the delve and the monsters therein. You provide their stats and their treasure and pick a suitable adventure hook to draw the characters to the place. Monstrous Delves are designed so that you can add them to your campaign with a minimum of fuss and effort. Have the characters got lost deliberately or accidentally? Have they decided to explore an area of wilderness you have yet to detail? Do you need a sidetrack or a diversion? Simply drop a Monstrous Delve in their path. Monstrous Delves are system neutral. However, it's impossible to avoid all game references. A few generic terms such as elf, orc, fighter, and cleric appear in the text. Modify these as necessary to suit your game and campaign world. This product is actually a dual format PDF. It comes in two versions. One optimized for printing and use on normal computers, and one optimized for use on a mobile device, such as an iPad. The 15-page Monstrous Delve Hobgoblins of the Mailed Fist PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $3.75. Woohoo! W4 Jazz, did Jeff just use the X card on Chris? No, what I'm trying to do, and I do notice, and Chris realizes this himself, a lot of times Chris will kind of start discussing the night's topic during the news portion of the show, which I'm in the middle of the news. I can't really respond to a lot of what's going on in chat while I'm trying to do the news. Agile Monk is with us. Good to see you, Agile Monk. Thanks for popping on in. Oh, hey, and I see Kevin R. Smith is also with us. Good to see you, Kevin. Anyway, this looks kind of cool. It's less than $4. Gives you a nice little starting point. Looks like the cartography is pretty cool. I really should try to delve a bit into Raging Swan Press releases. I would probably prefer more of their kind of like setting supplements or full-fledged adventures, as opposed to maybe just something short like this. I don't know if we'd see a whole lot of fireworks for that. So moving right along, Homie and the Dude are in the midst of a very successful Kickstarter for the Wandering Tavern role-playing game supplement. Here's the scoop. The Wandering Tavern is a 180-plus page traveler's guide to an expansive Studio Ghibli-inspired floating tabletop role-playing game setting. Explore the immense soaring city with 15 battle maps that detail its every nook and cranny. Delve deep into the devious underbelly of the tavern while getting to know its wide range of unique NPC patrons and staff. The Wandering Tavern's dark mysteries and entangled truths are yours to unlock. While traversing this vast metropolis, use remarkable magical items to protect yourself from the twisted spirits stalking the halls. However, if you have to escape, you can glide through uncharted skies on never-before-seen zephyrs, constructed from a plethora of brand new parts and stations. This is a system-agnostic floating tabletop role-playing game setting with optional 5e D&D stats included. It's packed full of plot hooks, mysteries, threats, and everything you need for a campaign. However, if you already have an established world or setting, the Wandering Tavern is the perfect pit stop for your players to visit, take a load off, and delve into a whole new sort of adventure. This content is also 100% human-created with absolutely no AI involvement. There is a Kickstarter video that's going to tell you a bit more about the Wandering Tavern. Let's give it a watch.
Hello? Are you there? It's Amelia. The secrets of the Wandering Tavern are coming for me. I know too much. And now, so will you. The Wandering Tavern is 15 layers of corruption, gambling, exotic restaurants, hotels, expansive workstations, and buzzing accommodations. Amongst these are 23 unique locations that range from lavish establishments down to the city's seedy underbelly. But don't worry, I've got detailed battle maps of the entire floating metropolis, so all you players and GMs can find your way around. Within the bustle of this colossal airship, deadly secrets plague the air. Luckily, I was able to collect scathing testimonies from over 30 NPC patrons and staff while evading the grasp of the ruthless Claw Militia. These testimonies were laced with 30 interconnected plot hooks. It all seems to be linked. The unsolved disappearance of the engineering team, the Claw Mafia's black market empire, the automaton mutiny brewing in the depth, and even the lingering spirits of the deceased. Oh, I didn't mention that. As the sun sets, shadowy forms seep from dark corners to materialize throughout the Wandering Tavern. Hold tight to your wards as spirits roam, looking for answers, a quiet conversation, or their next victim. But don't despair. There's still plenty to enjoy if you become marooned here. I've eaten sensational food, found a myriad of powerful items, won games of chance, and delighted in the tavern's vibrant festivities. However, if you do need a quick getaway, there are 6 unique plug-and-play airships with more than 50 parts and stations to facilitate your escape. The Wandering Tavern can be an entire campaign setting, or simply dropped into your current world. I'm so glad to have been able to collaborate with some of our favourite creators, who have kindly gifted me with many add-ons and trinkets to expand your adventure even further. So, climb aboard, if you dare. Back the Wandering Tavern Kickstarter, out now.
The project for the Wandering Tavern is 700% funded. 700% funded. English, Jeff. You can reserve a copy of the Wandering Tavern PDF and digital extras for a pledge of approximately $32. You can get the soft cover bundled with a lot of other goodies for a pledge of approximately $100 through May 9th. Pretty quick turnaround. Its expected delivery is June of this year. I think it looks very cool, looks very interesting. I am sort of confused, though, that there's a pledge level for just the PDF. It's $32. And then if you want the physical book, it's $100. And granted, it's bundled with other stuff, but most of those things are digital as well, which are also included in that PDF level. But it's $100? I'm surprised that there isn't just a pledge level to get the softcover book, period. And that's it. Kind of surprised because there are people out there who do not utilize PDFs or anything like that at their game table. They just want a game book. Kind of surprised by this. But yes, this looks very unique, very interesting. On to the final news piece of the evening. Now available in PDF from Cubicle. God, geez, why can't I speak tonight? It's because I'm amped up. Now available in PDF from Cubicle 7 Games is Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory Vow of Absolution. I've got the deets. A definitive guide to the Absolvers chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Vow of Absolution is a detailed and in-depth guide to the Absolvers chapter of the Adeptus Astartes, stationed within the Gilead system, and features a wealth of expanded lore, locations, and characters. Bound by long-sworn oaths to defend the Gilead system, the Space Marines of the Absolvers now find themselves the Imperium's last bulwark against the encroaching darkness. With their flagship vessel and a number of their brethren trapped in the Gilead system by the opening of the Great Rift, the Absolvers find their numbers dwindling as they desperately defend humanity in a system cut off from the Imperium's might. On Gilead Primus, the ancient Absolver citadel of Castle Grigori is alive with more activity than its storied halls have seen in centuries, as the chapter desperately recruits and prepares new aspirants. Elsewhere, the ancient and venerable battle barge, Vow of Absolution, is stationed within the Reach, holding back the incessant raids by foul orcs, the arrogant Eldari, and worse still, their own traitorous fallen brethren. Vow of Absolution introduces new 5-tier Astartes archetypes, exciting previously unexplored locations, and dives into the mysteries at the center of the ancient secrets of the chapter. Advice on running and scaling in military action-based campaigns is offered alongside a unique adventure design specifically to introduce the new and exciting content into your campaigns. Vow of Absolution is a detailed look at the Absolvers and playing an Astartes warrior in Wrath and Glory, covering 3 new key locations of the Absolvers chapter. A detailed look at the history and lore of the Absolvers chapter, new Astartes-focused talents, access to the armory of the Absolvers, introducing new war gear and equipment, dedicated psychic powers and litanies of battle for librarians and chaplains, the introduction of Tier 5 Astartes, archetypes, which are new to Wrath and Glory, as well as new patrons to introduce to your games. Right now, you can pre-order the 128-page hardcover, which is slated to release in the 4th quarter. That will include the PDF, and you'll get the PDF immediately. It does have an MSRP of $39.99, or you can grab the PDF right now for $19.99. Yes, this is one of the releases for Wrath and Glory that is part of kind of a new wave that is hitting for Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory. There's a new Eldari book that's coming out, or I think it's out in PDF right now. We've got that. I think there's supposed to be a new adventure campaign also coming for Wrath and Glory. So keep your eyes out for that. Very nice. So if you happen to like Warhammer 40K Wrath and Glory, it's very nice to see Cubicle 7 Games is continuing to support it, even though they have their other in-house created Warhammer 40K role-playing game. So very nice. Very cool. All right, that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to go stop by Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters go a long way to keeping the gaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Wunderbar. And I got to say, Agile Monk recently stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made a not small donation. Big thank you to Agile Monk. And of course, thank you very kindly to all of you out there who are using the banner ads and or stopping by paypal.me. It is truly appreciated. Tessie Trekkie and Tony Yerkides are in chat with us. Welcome aboard. Kevin R. Smith also points out, hey, not everybody has a 3D printer for those STL files. I'm with you on that too. Right with you on that. Yes. All right. So as I had mentioned, I changed tonight's topic at the last minute because of a lot of pushback that I'm getting from a Zeet I shared this afternoon about the RPG consent form. I'm going to share that. I'm going to talk a bit about it. I might even share some of the asshole-ish responses that I have gotten to it, just because people read what they want to read into something, not what the actual words say. Which, sorry, as I have said from time to time, I can explain it to you. I cannot understand it for you. Just how it goes. And I'm going to get on into that right after this brief intermission.
Hi, folks. I'm Rico.
Oh, Nacho.
He's Peppy.
See?
You can find us at the concession stand in the lobby.
Along with all sorts of other tasty goodies.
See? Rico's Nachos, a refreshingly new and different snack discovery. Chock full of high-quality ingredients, crisp, fresh tortilla chips, covered with creamy aged cheddar cheese, topped off with zesty jalapeno pepper rings. Rico's Nachos, out of sight.
Remember, folks, we're the new star at the snack bar. Rico's Nachos, a new taste treat you can't beat.
See? Rico's Nachos, on sale at the snack bar now.
Oh, the commercial again. Time to get myself a stag beer. Wish someone were here to enjoy it with me. Why, Bottomley, I didn't hear you come in. Take off your hat. And I'll get another stag. Oh, by George, stag always brings them best together.
Rock-a-bye, baby, in your cradle so fluffy. I can sleep, too, 'cause I drink Wilkins decaffeinated coffee.
Well, I'll be a monkey's uncle.
Yeah, Monkey's Uncle. New stunt race day with a monkey business name. Spread the stunts out every place. Make it tough to win the race. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Wind the timer, run and take the stunt that says be a snake. It's great, Monkey's Uncle. Time is going tick, tick, tick. Do a rooster who is sick. Cock-a-doodle choo. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Hurry, hurry, do those tricks for the monkeys out of ticks. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Time. Now's your turn to show your speed. Do more stunts and take the lead. Run wild, Monkey's Uncle. Catch a fish and give a toot. Be an owl who cries. It's fun, Monkey's Uncle. Time. Wiggle, waddle, quick, quick, quick. Do the build a tower trick. 12 stunts, just 3 tries. Case of tie spin monkey's eyes, and you're a monkey's uncle. It's wild. complete with stunt mats, cards, horns, clickers, tricks, spinner, and monkey timer from Transagram, where the fun comes from.
Oh, Magoo, you've done it again. Kabuki Kid says, Magoo stealing beer. Yes, the famed Jim Backus. Chris Lundgren says, great. Now they're craving nachos. I remember back when nachos were kind of a unique thing at like the drive-in or the theater. It was like, oh, nachos? What are those? You know, with the cheese, you'd be like, ooh, what a unique ethnic treat. All right. So originally, well, I guess last night, the topic of tonight's show was going to be, is there really a Game Master shortage out there? And then as, you know, last night's show went on, I was like, what were we talking about? What were we saying that maybe we'll do the show about tomorrow night? And then, of course, I went in and I did the show notes, just the timestamps for last night's show. And I don't rewatch an hour and a half of this stream. I just don't. I jump through it to go find where like the news ends, when the brief intermission comes up, when the topic comes up, and that's it. So I was like, I don't know. I don't remember what it was. I was like, okay, so what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to share 3 science fiction role-playing games that I think deserve more attention. I think deserve more love. And that was going to be the topic up until about 10 minutes before I went live, because earlier today, I tweeted or zeeted or sheeted over on X about this RPG consent checklist that is making the rounds. And it is essentially, I've got it up. If you follow me on Twitter, you can go over on Twitter, you can pull up my feed, and I have a picture of it, and then I commented. So what it is, it's basically a consent form of what sort of topics are all right for you to broach at the table as a game master, okay? So that is what this is. And essentially, I'm going to move some stuff around so I can share with you some of the items that are on here. So as an example, we've got 3 levels of consent. Green is enthusiastic consent, bring it on. Yellow is okay if veiled or off stage, might be okay on stage, but, and then red is hardline, do not include. So we have horror, have items like bugs, blood, demons, eyeballs, gore, harm to animals, harm to children, rats, and spiders. And so Kabuki Kid asks, who made it? Too bad we do not have Nolan Quizzer in chat with us, because he actually commented a couple of times in this Twitter fiasco that supposedly this consent checklist, it was created by someone who's really big into the BDSM field. I don't know. I have no clue. Okay, so that's an example of horror, right? So part of the problem I have with this form, and I don't have a problem with the form in concept, none whatsoever. But here it's like harm to animals, harm to children. Are those supposed to be on the same level as including rats in the game? Because that seems wrong to me. We also have relationships, romance, fade to black, explicit, between PCs and NPCs, between PCs, and we have sex, fade to black, explicit, between PCs and NPCs, between PCs, social and cultural issues, homophobia, racism, real world religion, sexism, specific cultural issues, mental and physical health, cancer, claustrophobia, freezing to death, gaslighting, genocide, heat stroke, natural disasters, paralysis, police and police aggression, pregnancy, miscarriage or abortion, self-harm, severe weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, sexual assault, starvation, terrorism, torture, and thirst. And these are just all presented as if they're all somehow equal. Kind of like, okay, but once again, I understand where it's coming from. So supposedly this is meant to be handed out by game masters to their players. So I tweeted, no, just no. If someone I knew showed up to my table with this, I tell them come back when they actually understood what a tabletop role-playing game is and politely show them the door. I would also question the sanity of a game master at a con or a friendly local game store too, who would bring a lot of this to a table. That's exactly what I wrote. Okay, yes, maybe I shouldn't have said, oh, I would question the sanity, because I asked people if, got bent out of shape about that. But they're all crying, not all of them, but most of them are crying that I'm like ripping on this. Oh, this checklist. Oh, and don't you understand how important it is? I've got people accusing me of being somebody who just wants, to be in control of my players and blah, blah, blah. So I said, if someone I knew brought this to my table, I'd explain, this isn't what role-playing games are about. And if they thought I was the kind of person who was going to focus on explicit sex or racism, homophobia, torture, terrorism, if they thought I was going to focus on that shit at my game table, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what kind of person do you think I am? I didn't say, oh, this is ridiculous. And then people are like responding like, oh, well, I use this so when people mark off the green boxes, I know what they want in their game. Really? So if your players all mark green boxes for anti-Semitism, you're all good with that? Which, yes, I get it. Ridiculous. That's a false equivalency. I know. But still, the way they're presenting it is like, and then I've got people who want it both ways. Who on one hand are saying that I'm sitting there and telling people that that we shouldn't have players consent as game masters at the table, and what you say goes, and if they don't like it, hit the bricks, blah, blah, blah. Never say that. I never said that. Well, then at the same time, saying, oh, well, Jeff doesn't want these kind of topics in games. These topics aren't important enough to include in games. Sorry, you can't have it both ways. So the point I was making is, what game master in their right mind is going to put together a game for a friendly local game store or a convention that is going to focus on some of these things? Oh, well, at the game store, it's okay if we discuss explicit sex around the table. Everybody marked a green box. Bullshit. That's not appropriate. So the point I'm trying to make is essentially, when did we stop having common sense? Common sense just isn't common anymore, is it? And it's just so many people just love to sit there wringing their hands over bullshit nonsense. I guess some people are responding to my Zeet because, they think, wow, I'm making an impact in the world by saying this. Okay, let's see what we got here. Kabuki Kid says, what would you want your safe word to be? See, like the X card? I don't have any problem with the X card. The X card sitting on the table, tap at it. Or I don't mind if a player were to tell me, hey, Jeff, we're kind of going into a place that's a little too dark. I don't want to get into. Not a problem. I wouldn't be like, well, how come? Not at all. Absolutely not. Something else. Whatever happened to good taste? Are people just overall completely stupid nowadays? Well, I didn't know we weren't supposed to talk about masturbation during this role-playing game. Nobody marked a box. I thought the Holocaust was fair game. Nobody said no to genocide. Ridiculous. And then, of course, I've got other people saying, oh, well, some people want this sort of stuff in their games. I have explicit sex in a lot of my Vampire the Masquerade games. Great. Good for you. I didn't say anything about what you could or couldn't do at your game table. I said, if someone I knew brought me this, thinking that I would include some of this shit in my games, I'd be pissed off that they thought that little of me. Because I'm sorry, maybe your approach to role-playing games is absolutely different than mine, but I do not use role-playing games as a substitution for therapy. I don't. I play role-playing games to have fun. And I do my best to make sure that everybody at my table is having a good time. And including topics like detailed visuals about torture and gore don't fit that. And I run Call of Cthulhu a lot. And I run it and I make it creepy, but I don't make it sick and twisted. It's like, come on. All right, so let's see what we've got cooking here. Kevin R. Smith says there was one released by Monty Cook Games and created by Shauna Germain. This might be it. I don't know. Kevin R. Smith said Jeff's going to be even more off the cuff than usual. Yeah, sort of. Kabuki Kid says, I never even heard of this X card thing. I guess I never had to deal with anything like this because I always just gamed with friends. But see, you got to keep in mind, the assumption is you are, as a game master, going to break this out with your friends. That you are going to give this to your friends because this isn't just for online gameplay and convention play and playing in like organized play and things like that at your friendly local game store. This is supposed to be a consent checklist that I guess you give to your players every time you're doing a new campaign or something. Kevin R. Smith says, this one doesn't look quite as long as detailed as that one, though it does use the same red, yellow, green coding. Veil of Darkness 000 says, I mean, if giant rats and spiders aren't your thing, how are you even interested in a fantasy setting? That's bread and butter stuff. Just like horror. It's kind of like, so you want to play a horror game, but you don't want anything horrific in it. Well, how is it a horror game? Now, once again, I'm not talking about including shit like miscarriages and abortions and things like that. And if that kind of stuff, because yes, I know there are like Call of Cthulhu adventures that do touch upon women being pregnant, things like that. I get it, but the thing is, there's referencing something, like people like to refer to that as off stage. And then there's, let's focus on this. And that's just hugely different. Hugely, hugely different. Tessie Trekkie says, safety tools, here we go again. My honest opinion for con games, it's absolutely reasonable to require games to provide Broad content warnings, example, body horror, violence, sexual themes, etc. Yes. I have no issue with that at all. I firmly believe that a game master should be very upfront about the sort of content that's going to be part of their campaign without spoilers. But yes, I'm not into like, wow, I shocked those players. I bet they won't be able to sleep again tonight. I also bet they won't be back at your game table next time. Chris Lundgren says they were at a historical miniatures game at a convention. Axis tanks had to be removed. They were offended by the Axis tanks with historical symbols on the tanks. Well, if they're swastikas, I can understand. I can understand that. To be honest, I really don't have a beef with that. As far as, not allowing any miniatures and stuff like that have swastikas on them. You wouldn't be able to get away with that in Germany. But if they were simply Axis tanks, it had like the German cross on it, I'd be like, what? Madman says they've never needed to use a content checklist. They always made sure players in their group felt they could approach at the table or privately through email, text, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I do understand that quite a few people who follow this channel, who watch the show, they are older. Oh, just like I had some fuckhead sit there and go, oh, look, a 60-plus old white man talking about blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, nice going, man. You're going to rip on me for something you obviously don't understand because I didn't say what you're saying I said. And then you're going to engage in ageism. Brilliant. Bravo. That is a fine bit of hypocrisy there, son. Plus, I'm not 60 years old or older. It's like somebody doesn't know how to do my math because my birthday is on my Twitter. DOS Fratu Dos Fratu says, preach, brother. Growing the audience, unfortunately, grew that 10% too. Roger Perdome says, never going to use that in my games, and I would just leave a game where the DM would use that. Just communicate, use common sense. Once again, common sense. I'm not going to focus my game on sexual stuff simply because I sometimes have a couple of 16-year-olds at the table and a couple of guys around 55 like me. I've said it time and time again. Whatever you enjoy doing, enjoy doing. If your group loves to get around and jerk each other off around the table, hey, knock yourselves out. I'm not telling you you're having wrong fun. Not at all. I always say the problem becomes if somebody is physically injured at your table or if they find themselves, upset about something that's going on at your table. That's it. That's all I've talked about. Man, I swear this is the kind of shit that drives people away from the hobby. And I'm not talking about a consent form. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I do not give a shit about the consent form one way or another. If you use it, fine. If you don't use it, fine. I personally wouldn't use it because I run games for my friends and their family and friends, I should say, and their friends. And not only do I know most of them, there are also topics I would not broach at a game table, even my best friend Elliot, who is probably closer than a brother to me. There are topics I would not include in a role-playing game with him simply because I just don't feel, A, that they're appropriate, and B, like I said before, I do not use role-playing games as a form of therapy. if I needed therapy, I would go see a professional, not a professional dungeon master. Where did I leave off? I know I'm going to delve a little more into chat tonight because there are a lot of chats flying at the moment. So I don't want people to think that they're being ignored. Phil of Darkness 000 says, Jeff, you're all right. Glad I checked in tonight. Oh, I know I'm all right. Do you honestly think I give a fucking fart in the wind about the people who are commenting on Twitter? Now, I have had some people say, Jeff, I think you've got it wrong. I don't have any issue with that. I don't have an issue with people misunderstanding what I was trying to say. And yes, you know, I only have so many characters to use on Twitter. So if it was misunderstood, okay, it was misunderstood. But at no point did I ever say, oh, this consent thing is bullshit. You got to be crazy to use it. Well, no, nothing like that. But there are people who are saying, hey, Jeff, DM me because I want to explain why something like this is important and stuff like that. I understand why for some people that is important. I get it. I get it. People have had bad experiences in their lives regarding various different subjects. I completely understand that. All I'm basically trying to say is, unlike the people who put together this checklist, I don't think no topic is taboo in a role-playing game. I think there are. And that's just me. But then again, I tried to believe that there is common sense and good taste. I think that's part of it too. Roger Prudhomme says, if a player wants to say I tried to seduce him and go to bed with that NPC or whatever, it's fine, but we're not going to role play it. Yeah, I got to be honest. I had somebody at a table not too long ago, a game that I was running, who was like the first thing when they got to this town is like, oh, where's the brothel and yada, yada, yada. And I looked at him and I had not run something for them before. And I said, just so you know, this isn't one of those sort of games where we're going to delve into that stuff. I mean, if you want, I will deduct some gold coins from your character's pocket and you can, play off that you went to the brothel. But yeah, I'm not devoting table time to your escapades at the brothel. Tony Urquidy says, I see two extremes trying to control things. One side needs to stop being creepy assholes. The other needs to grow a thicker skin. Yep, I'm with you on that. See, the vast majority of people out there, they don't need this. Vast majority of people out there also don't care about this. I think the people who are getting upset about this are a lot of folks who for one, it's like we've talked about this before. There are people out there who need to get up in the morning and find something to be offended by or to be exasperated by or upset over or pissed off about. Otherwise, their day's not complete. And I don't understand it because I would think that'd be pretty fucking exhausting, but that's sort of the thing. And then also we've got the others who are like, oh, look at me. Black Lives Matter, rainbow, use my pronouns. Because that's the extent of my involvement. Because I think, oh, well, I tweeted this today. I made a change in the world. I'm a good person. And it's like, you didn't do jack shit. Got a lot of people like that too out there. Chris Lundgren said, just put on your table that this game may have dark themes and historical sense. A convention recently banned the classic Slavers of the Undercity because it had the word slavers. I can't argue that. That's the whole thing. I can't argue that. It's a public place. It's a public event. So some people would be very triggered by that. Now, once again, this is something that's been mentioned in the past. Just think how many classic fantasy stories, which are still held in high regard, have slavery. And it's the heroes fighting against that. Just think. Think of the Lord of the Rings. How does the Lord of the Rings end? The book, not the movie. The book. How does Return of the King end? The hobbits of the Shire have been enslaved. But I get it. That upsets people. And, once again, if it is a convention, if it's a friendly local game store, things have to be approached in a far different manner because you're looking at dealing with a segment of the public that you don't know what their reaction might be. So I don't have an issue with that. If somebody wanted to, like we see with basic fantasy, if somebody reworked the Slavers adventure, I almost said adventure path, but it's a campaign. It's a series of modules. If they reworked it and they just didn't have slavers in the name, then I would think you could get away with having, like a disclaimer, a content warning saying, hey, the adventurers are going to fight against a group of slavers. Okay, maybe you'll get away with it. But presenting it as, slavers in its name, I can understand that. Even though, as Kabuki Kid points out, the slavers weren't the good guys. No, they were not. And the player characters are not playing the slavers either. Tessie Trekkie says, story time. I was playing years ago in a Call of Cthulhu game run by a very good friend. He started describing a child sacrifice scene. It made me freak out. I had to ask him to stop. He did, and we moved on. I'll tell you what. I'm going to clue you in a little bit on my review of God's Teeth. So I do not give this a review score because there is content in here that would absolutely not make my table. I just would not feel comfortable with it. The whole tone of this campaign is like a major downer. And that is not, and yes, I get it. It's Delta Green. Delta Green is not feel good adventures, right? Most Delta Green adventures end very, very poorly for the agents. Whereas comparing Delta Green to a lot of Call of Cthulhu adventures, Call of Cthulhu adventures finish up with everybody gathered around the fire having hot chocolate and marshmallows at the end of the tale compared to what happens in Delta Green adventures. But the thing is, and there are some scenes in here that I would not feel comfortable role-playing at a table with the people I game with. Yet at the same time, this is extremely well-written. What it's looking to achieve, it achieves really well. If your point is to freak people out, then yeah, it's doing its job really well. But this falls into that same sort of category where it's good taste and common sense. But then again, there are some people that won't be fazed by it. But me, I have a problem with kids being abused. I don't want to role play that kind of stuff. I don't want to refer to it at my game table. I don't want to refer to child abuse in any way, shape, or form at my game table at all. It's just how it goes. That's it. Okay. Madman says, when I get in my Deadlands campaign, I'm not going to be historically accurate and go all Deadwood with the racism. Well, you can always, channel, what was his name? David Lynch with the scripts and that. There you go. Kabuki Kid says, okay, so Kevin R. Smith says, a lot of discourse around this is colored by the fact that some well-known right-wing grognards went hard against this when it first came out, right? Which Kevin R. Smith also points out, I never considered that putting a topic on the consent form means people can greenlight things like genocide. I wouldn't think so either. But in reality, if you're putting a green light on it, and it even says, yeah, bring it on, I'm all for it. And you have things like homophobia and racism and genocide, and they all got that little green box you can mark, I'm all good for that. Kevin R. Smith says, to be fair, I think this list is supposed to apply to all genres. Yeah, it is. Chris Lundgren says, disruptive players, an X card could be misused by a player who simply dislikes a certain direction, doesn't want to be challenged. Yeah, that is a possibility. Z7800 Pro says, I'm rather new to all this. I only ever played with friends. But the point is, what they're saying is that this should be used with your friends too. I mean, at least that's what people who have been replying to my Zeet have been saying. Chris Langren says, imagine a player constantly using the X card whenever the GM throws a difficult encounter at them. This could stall the narrative and make it hard for the GM to create a compelling story. In that case, don't invite that player back to your table. I say it all the time that sometimes I find the game masters just bend over way too much for the players at their table. And it's sort of like, really? You're going to disrupt the group dynamic? Just simply have one other person at the table? Just like the reality is that a lot of people tell stories about things that happen around game tables, and they're only that. They're stories. I've heard people tell me just absolute batshit crazy stories that they claim happen around a game table, and I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. Kabuki Kid says you toss a player that becomes problematic. Exactly. Or on the flip side, you leave a group if a GM is being weird or creepy. Exactly. Yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings sort of thing. I'll just sit there and eat shit. I don't get it. Maybe it's because of my age. Because, I'm over 60. Kevin R. Smith says, a couple of years ago, Paizo was almost pressured into eliminating all mention of slavery from their products, even as something villains do. I think they backtracked on it. They actually got rid of it. It's referenced, but it's never, ever going to be something that's a focus of any sort of adventure, is what they've pointed out, as far as I understand. James Venabush is with us tonight. I believe this might be a first-time visit for James. Look, somebody will be offended by anything. Trying to run 100% an unoffensive game is impossible, especially in a game that has demons, devils, monsters, and any imaginary monsters. Yeah, I get it. Kevin R. Smith says, maybe someone should point out that Lord of the Rings is named after its villain. Very good point. Very good point, Kevin. See, Kevin Thorpe is with us. If I write a scenario for either of my groups, I will always have to change it for convention play. Sure, because you understand, if you have a group that you game with, you know where the line is. You know where the line is, and depending on the sort of game that you're running, you might come up to that line. Like if you're running a horror game, or if you're running like a fantasy game, but you really want like the viciousness or the evil of the big bad or the big bad's minions, whatever, to hit home, you're going to come right up to that line. You might toe that line. But you know your players, you know your group, you know your friends, and you know you don't want to cross that line. Because now, once again, we are talking about people who have some common sense and intelligence, which not everybody who plays these games does. But I will assume the vast majority of people who are watching this show, taking part in chat, fall into the former, not the latter. W4 says, it's funny how killing is seen favorably in RPGs over some other actions. Ogres have children too. Hey, just like, the baby orcs. That whole dilemma. Baby orcs, baby goblins. Well, depending on what sort of goblins. If you're playing like 5e, those are evil goblins. Playing Pathfinder, goblins are, Same with kobolds, right? If you're playing Kobold Press kobolds, they're just kind of downtrodden. If you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, kobolds are evil little buggers. Let's see. The Badger has popped on in. Welcome aboard. My rule of thumb for gaming has always been I'm not going to game with someone I wouldn't sit down and have a beer with. Right with you on that one, too. That sorts out most problems before they start. Yeah, I got to be honest. I mean, I love this hobby, but not for one moment would I ever throw away my values or just trample on my beliefs simply so I could sit and be able to play a game with somebody because there was nobody else around to play with. No. Chris Langer is talking about somebody being removed from a convention for spitting. Tessie Trekkie says, years ago, we uninvited a D&D player because his first response in any town we arrived in is, where's the fest hall? And do they have halfling workers? Every bloody time. Chris Lundgren says, pre-session discussion before the game begins, the GM can have a session 0 where they discuss potential themes and boundaries with the players, not a form. That is, I agree. I think it's the game master's responsibility, especially if it's a new sort of game, right? And that it's the sort of game that it's possible you could be crossing over to some of these topics, which I wouldn't feel very comfortable with at my table, and let them know up front. I think that is the responsibility of the game master. I really do. And, allow your players, because then that creates an organic discussion. And I'm not saying it's a discussion where you've got to quiz people or interrogate them. Well, how come you don't want that topic in the game? No, it gives them an opportunity to say, hey, I don't feel comfortable with XYZ. Okay, great. I'm glad I know that now. GameCat is hanging with us saying every monster is someone's child. Veil of Darkness 000 says the evilest goblins are in Morkborg. As I always like to say it, get ready, everybody. Morkborg. Mike says, I'm newer to gaming and RPGs, but this certainly seems to drive home what I was told is how hard it can be to find a right group of friends to play with. Yeah, that can be really tough. If you don't have a ready-made group, just like playing online with strangers, that is a tricky proposition. It really is. Because you just don't know. I mean, you have no idea. And then, of course, any situation like that, there should be some sort of a session 0 where the players have an understanding of what sort of game they're looking for and what sort of just I mean, are they looking for like action and adventure? Are they looking for heavy combat, heavy investigative procedures and things like that? Just, you know, to give the game master, dungeon master, or whatever, a feel. The Madman's giving me the NFL draft picks. Yes, I knew that the Bears were going to take Caleb Williams first. Interesting with their number 9 pick. Oh, they must have traded down. Didn't they have the 8th pick? I thought they had the 8th pick. Maybe they traded down a spot. I don't know. I do not know. James Venabush says, Session 0 used to be called setting up the campaign. If you set up the campaign correctly, you should not run into any of these issues. It's hard to play, W4 says, it's hard to play an evil character, even if it's just to shake things up. See, and I have nothing against people playing morally gray characters or outright evil characters. It's not something that interests me. And I'm not really interested in running a game. I don't mind if the characters are neutral. That's fine. Because I don't necessarily want to be running a game where every character, regardless of what their archetype or whatever is a paladin, you know. But like just downright evil player characters, like I said, I'm not knocking it for other people. It's just not my thing. It's not my bag. That's all it is. Okie doke. So those are my thoughts. Let me kind of rein this back in and point out, once again, I really don't care about the people who are commenting on X about what I posted because they're just reading into that what they want to read into. And I'm sure a lot of these people have their own agendas they want to push, which is fine. You know, I really don't care. But the thing is, I don't have an issue with a role-playing game consent checklist or consent form or anything like that. I don't. But I also think it gets pretty ridiculous where people just don't act like adults. They have common sense and respect and empathy for one another at the game table where you'd have to worry about some of this stuff. And no, I don't have a problem if you want to include all of these different topics in your games. I mean, the reality is, you know, rats and spiders and stuff like that, you're going to run across very few people who are going to be absolutely triggered by that kind of stuff. But there are other topics on this checklist where it's sort of like, I'm sorry, I play role-playing games to have a good time and so that everybody has a good time at the table. I don't need to focus on the ills of the real world at the game table. That's just not it. And I think part of that checklist is that people think that these things are going to be like a focus. That it's, you know, if something's referenced, then it's referenced. We see that in TV shows and movies all the time. I mean, you watch Schindler's List, that is a difficult watch. But just imagine if that was, you know, if they like recreated exactly what was going on in the death camps, you wouldn't be able to watch it, or you'd have to be insane to want to watch it. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. People are just weird. They're just absolutely weird. GameCat says, I feel such shame for all the imaginary death and destruction in games. Batman says, they always incorporate Session 0 with a high level of overview of content and character generation. I provide a couple of needed books or printed PDFs they can all share. W4 says, they get triggered by kittens. GameCat says, fade to black on that common sense. Yeah, all that common sense is off screen. off stage. So Chris Lundgren's just basically pointing out that they really dislike the X card because it can be misused. Like I said, if a player's just misusing any sort of safety tool at your table, they're just being a disruptive player. So they're not really interested in playing. They're interested in disrupting your game. That's what they're looking to do. So, all righty then. That is it for this time out. I think next Tuesday, I will share a trio of science fiction role-playing games that I think really do deserve a lot more attention. And there's one that you might be surprised because you'll probably think, oh, wow, that's really popular, isn't it? Not as much as you might think. All righty. James Venabush says, remember, it's fantasy. No actual animals, people, or fantasy creatures are actually being hurt, abused, or worse. Some people, that's not good enough. It's not good enough. I mean, let's be honest. There are some people that just take their gaming way too fucking seriously. And I'm a guy who runs a website and a YouTube channel dedicated to tabletop gaming. And I will tell you, there are people out there who take tabletop gaming way too fucking seriously. Flaming Heron pops in right at the end. Kabuki Kid says they're going to go to their fridge, drink a bottle of beer like Mr. Magoo. Maybe they'll end up drinking a bottle of ketchup instead. Chris Lundgren says, thanks, good topic. They agree with me. Well, everybody over on X doesn't. But then again, everybody on X is just reading what they want and what I tweeted out. So even after I went to the trouble of responding to people to make sure they understood this is what I meant, they're still going to fucking argue with me about what I meant. Game Cat says, thanks for the imaginary therapy session, Jeff. I feel better. I am a professional dungeon master. What can I say? W. Ford says in England, they had to omit the rat-breathing water scene in The Abyss because it was deemed animal torture. Chris Lundgren also points out, tabletop is not a religion. All right, everybody. That's it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my review of Delta Green, God's Teeth, which will be arriving this weekend. This is from Arc Dream Publishing, and I already clued you in a little bit on the review. It's going to be one of the more difficult reviews that I've shared, probably in a long time, if even possibly ever. But of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody who watched live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. But I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for watching any of the videos here on the channel. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a great weekend. I will be back on Tuesday. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. And as always, I hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.